r/AskReddit, which conspiracy theory do you believe is true? The line on the laundry detergent measuring cup is higher than it needs to be. Oh yes. And the hole your toothpaste comes out of is far too big etc. The feeding guidelines on my cat's food says to give large cats 3 sachets per day, 3x100 g of meat chunks in jelly. My cats are huge. There is no goddamn way I would ever feed them 3 pouches of food. They'd be super chunkers, for sure. I give them 2 each per day, and even then it's sometimes too much, and they leave it. It's not really a conspiracy theory, but it's just a thing I noticed. I don't know what kind of athletic bodybuilding cats they have in mind for this food, but I'm not about to turn my babies into blimps. Maybe they want you to overfeed, so you have to buy more food more often. Heck knows. The original nuclear tests in the US Southwest were done to also test the effects of radiation on human populations. Not a conspiracy theory. They told civilians to sit on their front porches, watch the bombs, and wear a pin that records radiation levels. Not really a conspiracy, so much as a well-documented. That Coca-Cola came out with new Coke in order to change the original formula to corn syrup from real sugar without people complaining about the subtle difference. Just buy Mexican Coke. I see it sold pretty much everywhere. David Kelly didn't kill himself. Now, for those who are too young to remember, shortly after 9/11, the US and the UK decided to invade Iraq. The rationale was that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, even though the UN's chief weapons inspector wasn't convinced. A prominent UK weapons expert, one David Kelly, leaked to a journalist that he believed the report alleging WMDs were sexed up in order to give an excuse to go to war, and repeated his claims in front of a parliamentary committee. In so doing, he massively embarrassed the government because he was essentially accusing them of fabricating evidence to give them an excuse to go to a war they'd already decided to fight. 2 days later, Kelly took a huge dose of coproxamol and slit his wrist, severing his ulnar artery on a walk in the woods near his home. The important thing to remember about the dossier on Iraq's weapons of mass destruction, and the thing that made his testimony so damning, was that he wrote it. He basically testified that they had taken his dossier and changed things to justify a war. Imagine how easy it would be for someone to fake that too. Especially if it were the government, who probably also had their fingers in who determined the cause of death. Michael Jordan's 2-year stint in baseball was actually a 2-year NBA ban for gambling on games. No. It was a marketing deal for Space Jam. That most if not all countries have done experiments on humans against their will. That's a fact. Edit. Some WW2 stuff below. Most of the votes on Reddit moving things to the top are from troll farms and corporations. Those sitting at the top of US society, that is, political bosses, think tanks, owners of media conglomerates, etc., intentionally seed distrust and fear between different factions, races, religions, regions, etc. of American society, so we forget our commonality and can't see how hard we are all being fucked over by those at the top point, as President Johnson put it. If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. Related, companies whose products actively degrade human/environmental health, that is, soft drink companies, plastic manufacturers, oil companies, etc., have very actively and aggressively pushed the personal responsibility angle, so that we believe everything is up to us. Not to say that we shouldn't be responsible for our own actions, but they've perverted our sense of what their contributions, sacrifices, and initiatives should be, which could actually have massive and genuine impact, but it also impacts their bottom line, so they sow misinformation. There's no way I'll ever believe that Pat Tillman's death was accidental friendly fire. I watched a documentary about that a while back. I wish I remember the name. It was wild. What makes you think that? Genuinely curious. The conspiracy theory is that he was asking questions, but so many people in the army were asking the same questions. The army is not some hyper-elite force of trained badasses. It's a bunch of regular dudes from next door who have some training. They're still curious, they still feel and think. Some are very smart. Plenty of them are dumber than you believe. A guy in basic training tried to tell me that we, as in the human race, didn't understand why the moon changed phases. I explained like 5th grade science to this guy while we were on guard duty point, so it's like this. The US Army takes a lot of pride in calling itself the best in the world. The Rangers are basically their A-team, or pretty close to it depending on who you ask. So the whole incident was your A-team killing one of their own by accident, and that guy happens to be a huge celebrity that the nation loved. It's a colossal embarrassment for the US Army. That's why they tried to make it look heroic. Point source. 5 years in the Army. Edit. Formatting. All the novels written by Dean Koontz are in fact written by a golden retriever. The man in all of the author pictures was hired because no one would take a dog novelist seriously. Finally, what I came here for. What? You mean like Watchers is a true story written by the dog/Koontz? Dean Koontz is the main character of Watchers, and he actually found the super intelligent dog, Einstein, and that is where all his books come from? I'm down. Tell me more. Only half the novels were written by the dog. The guy demanded to be able to publish his own works after the first couple canine written ones got popular, which is why about 50% of Dean Koontz's books suck so bad. I feel like the round earth theory is true. Governments spread wild and crazy conspiracy theories to discredit conspiracy theorists and make them look like lunatics. That way, when someone actually finds a real conspiracy, people will just go, oh, it's one of those crazy guys. Muddying the waters is an old political game, and it's being played more actively today than ever before. Hadn't looked at it this way. I'm on board. I think Futurama has an episode where something like this is mentioned. The US president says that the only people in the super secret meeting would be him, Pentagon generals, and a single nutcase conspiracy theorist to spread the news/have no one believe him. Edit. Found it. Episode Roswell. That ends well. Truman, fellas, this visit's top secret. No one's to know about it except the senior officers. They salute. Scientists, they nod, and a single conspiracy nutter no one will believe. He laughs and takes bad photo. The phrase conspiracy theory has been purposefully warped to mean something farcical and crazy to discredit people who call out criminal conspiracies. The phrase conspiracy theory has been purposefully warped to mean something farcical and crazy to discredit people who call out criminal conspiracies. Treason doth never prosper. What's the reason? Why if it prosper, none dare call it treason. I think they have cloned humans. Exhibit A, Guxy, Maine. They've tried at least. I think about this a lot. When I was a kid I remember hearing they cloned a sheep 20 years later, and we have heard no news about cloning. I don't know if I buy my own conspiracy theory, and I'm not entirely sure what exactly the conspiracy is, but I'll repost the same thing I always post when this question is asked. I had a Vietnamese roommate in college. One time someone mentioned apples and my roommate said he could rip them in half. We all called bullshit, and so he did it to shut us up. It was pretty cool. But then he claimed that all Vietnamese people can do it. That didn't sound right. So now, whenever I meet a new Vietnamese person, I ask, in as polite, and not creepy, and not racist a way as I can, if they can rip an apple in half, and I'll be damned if every person I've ever asked goes yeah, sure. Also, most of them follow up with all Vietnamese people can rip apples in half. Then I always ask if that's just how people in Vietnam eat apples, and they always say no, we just eat them the normal way, but all Vietnamese people can rip them in half if they want to. I truly don't know if I'm being trolled or not. If I ask the question and have an apple, I'll always give it to the person who claims they can do this, and they always can. So there's some truth to it, but I cannot figure out why. In my experience, almost all Vietnamese people claim that all Vietnamese people can rip apples in half. That's a weird thing to claim. How are they so sure about what every other Vietnamese person can do? Are they implying that Laotians and Thai people can't do this? Is it a special trick they teach only in Vietnam? I would never claim that all Americans can juggle, or that all white people can juggle. See, I don't even know if they are suggesting it's a racial trait or a cultural skill point, or is it that Vietnamese people are just really proud of their culture, so they like to fib about the skills everyone else has. And then when tested with an apple, all Vietnamese people are just so confident that they're awesome enough to do it that they just brute force the apple in half. Or was there a meeting once and all Vietnamese people realized that they could help each other by making wild fruit claims about the skills of the Vietnamese so that they could trick dumb white boys like me into giving them free fruit to test their powers? I would welcome any data anyone else can offer on this. My sample size is admittedly small, about 8 Vietnamese people, so this could just be a statistical fluke. But when 6 people, who have almost certainly never met each other before, independently claim that all Vietnamese people have fruit powers, it makes you wonder whether it might just be true. Follow-up notes. Yes, I understand that plenty of non-Vietnamese folks can rip an apple in half. Hell, I can do it too. That doesn't make the Vietnamese fruit claims that I've experienced less peculiar. Yes, I know that British comedian Bob Mortimer can do this by my rough estimate from past comments in previous threads. For every Vietnamese person claiming that they've never heard of this, there's another Vietnamese person claiming that all Vietnamese people can rip apples, and yet another non-Vietnamese person who asks a coworker or an in-law or a friend and learns that they can rip apples. Of that last group, it seems like about half of the Vietnamese people asked that. Oh yeah, all Vietnamese people can do that. Let me address all Vietnamese people for a second. If a bunch of people give you free apples to test this, and you like apples, enjoy. If you get a bunch of annoying fruit inquiries that you don't want to deal with, I'm sorry. But really, is it my fault for accurately reporting my experiences with Vietnamese folks, apple ripping, and Vietnamese folks' claims about apple ripping? Or should you really be annoyed at all of my past Vietnamese acquaintances who have made these claims? Anyway, at least hopefully this is more fun for you to talk about than the war original comment here. https://www.reddit.com/r/videos/comments/5jazg/on_wood_I_i_underscore/he_can/dgvun9d/first. Repost here. https /what_conspiracy_theory_do_and_y/dt1vg6j/. That's crazy. I thought I was the only one who knew about this. My family has a lot of Vietnamese friends, and we are very close. They have some sort of party every year, and we are invited, because we are almost like family. They always have an apple cracking contest among the adults and older teens, and everyone can do it. I asked them how, and they responded with the same thing: all Vietnamese people can. I'm Vietnamese, and all people can do this, because it was like a mini trend in high school. Mayo edit. Some people have been asking how to rip the apple in half, but since I don't know how to explain it, I will be explaining a way I found on how to point. Have your thumb and index finger both on the top and bottom, so stem and bottom of apple. Then with your other hand put your palm over your thumb and grab the apple. After that hold with your hand, that is holding the apple with thumb and index finger, then just rip with your other hand. Sorry in advance as I cannot explain things very well. This is so wonderfully bizarre and specific, I hope I never forget it. The first time I saw someone tear an apple in half, it was a Vietnamese dude at my high school. Hated him, but the apple thing was cool. You should make this a very specific bot. I'm Vietnamese and I have never heard of this, nor have ever even tried it. But, I can absolutely rip an apple in half. I believe you have put more time and thought into this than a lot of other theories get. I work with a couple Vietnamese guys. I'm gonna ask them. Edit. I asked them, and they all said no, and had never heard that being a cultural thing. I'm as disappointed as you are. Downvote my comment. I don't deserve this comment karma. I looked this up and found one of my favorite photographers doing it. Best part are the top comments related to your theory. Throwback Thursday was invented so that social media apps, mainly Facebook, could build and develop facial recognition technology showing the faces of people over time. Edit. A word edit too. There are a lot of people replying who don't understand. A huge percentage of Facebook users these days are your parents, uncles, aunts, and grandparents who have, literally, decades worth of printed photos sitting in show boxes that would never see the light of day again, if not for schemes like these. TBT is not for you 20 to 30 somethings who are simply reposting a photo you took in college 10 years ago. Isn't that true for #10-year challenge as well? Wow. That's a good one. That actually makes sense. I've always thought that competition reality shows purposefully send someone home each season that deserves to stay so that people get mad and talk about it online and get other people interested in watching the show. I think they have who they already want to win at the beginning. It's okay, you can say Drag Race. That every few weeks this question is posted by them to check if we've discovered them yet. Click on the emoji till you can hide a link in an emoji. Pedophile rings in high places of power, government, Hollywood, church. Needs stopped. Sony had Michael Jackson killed so that they could secure the rights to the Beatles discography. I read one about MJ being killed because he was the one who wanted to expose all the elite pedophiles in Hollywood, and his ranch with the kids was actually a sanctuary for victims. He was framed as a pedo himself to tarnish his reputation, and no one would believe anything he said. Paul Pierce pooped his pants in an NBA game and pretended he hurt his ankle to get a wheelchair off court. That Dunskneder, or however you spell it, is a real creep and child predator and should have never worked for Nickelodeon. I don't think this is much of a conspiracy, it's pretty much just a known fact. There's no cover up to his creepy behavior. Now if you said Jamie Lynn Spears had his kid and that's why Zoe 101 ended, then we would have ourselves a conspiracy theory. I've been reading the AGC blind items webpage for years. They have made numerous outrageous statements that came to light after some time. They said that Bruce Jenner was transitioning a year before it was announced. They talked about Scientology a long time before stuff was released, and too many more to list. They talked about how a celebrity momager was in on the editing of the sex tape, and that you could pay her to screw any of her daughters. They said that this was why so many starlets hang out in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. One of the things that has stood out to me for years was specifically about Dunsknida, his foot fetish, and his pedo behavior. It was said that he is the father of Jamie Lynn Spears' baby and that's why she hasn't had to work since giving birth. It was also said that Ariana used that high-pitched voice because he got so turned on by her talking like that during the casting while he was having sex with her in exchange for the job. Some of the info could be lies for revenge, some could be the truth for revenge. Who knows? It came to mind that women's makeup is actually secretly damaging their skin, so when they see it, they'd be convinced to buy more makeup. Edit. This blew up. Now my highest upvoted comment is about women's beauty products being a scam. Thank you all. I think this would make sense, except that literally everything damages your skin. I haven't worn makeup in a while due to COVID-19 and my skin is an absolute disaster RN just due to food, hormones, stress. Wish I knew. Edit. I just wanted to make a funny relatable post. Please stop giving me skincare advice. I have a skincare routine already and I'm not actually that concerned with having perfect skin. That hot dog manufacturers have a secret agreement with the bun companies to produce different amounts of each product. I don't know the numbers exactly, but for example, you need dogs for a cookout, so you buy some, and the only available package size is 8 hot dogs. Then, you go and get some buns which only come in packs of 12. Therefore, once you cook your 8 hot dogs you still have leftover buns, which means you will buy more hot dogs to use those buns, and you will then have to buy more buns to use those hot dogs that were bought to finish the original buns. The cycle continues. 4 packs of buns and 6 packs of hot dogs, 48 total hot dogs. I'm tempted to believe the one about Michael Jordan's first retirement being a secret suspension for betting on games. I mean, I'm pretty sure a movie was made about this already. He had to help the Looney Tunes edit till it's Looney Tunes. Most Zilek secretly knows the Simpsons children are prank calling him, but is playing along with them because he enjoys hearing them laugh. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. Thanks everyone. Yeah, this been a fan theory for a while among the Simpsons fan community. Doesn't he try to kill the person who prank called him in one's episode? I think it was Jimbo trying to get with Bart's babysitter, if I remember correctly. As a regular, I can verify it's true. Plenty of conspiracy theories are largely accepted to be true as a matter of historical record. For instance, Nixon and LBJ conspired to prolong the Vietnam War to help Nixon's 1972 election campaign. Google, Facebook, etc. conspired with NSA to share data. PRISM program, NSA conspired to infiltrate bodies like NIST and weaken encryption standards. Bullrun program, CIA used whorehouses to kidnap people and drug them with LSD to experiment with behavior control. MK Ultra, Tuskegee syphilis conspiracy etc. LeBron ain't even that old though. CIA used whorehouses to kidnap people and drug them with LSD to experiment with behavior control. That specific part of MK Ultra was called Operation Midnight Climax. I crap you not. HTTPS //n.m wikipedia.org/wiki/operation_midnight_climax 60s were crazy. There was a government funded study where they gave LSD and handjobs to a dolphin. Selling ridiculously expensive paintings is a way of money laundering. Stevie Wonder can see. This one's my favorite because it's just so random. The FBI killed MLK. Man, I hate acronym on acronym violence. JFK was only wounded by LHO's bullet. He was actually killed by a Secret Service agent's bullet accidentally, which is why there was such an obvious cover-up. LHO's bullet was a full metal jacket bullet which hit JFK in the throat, before ricocheting into Governor Connally. The bullet which blew up half of JFK's head was almost certainly a hollow point bullet. Instead of continuing its trajectory like a FMJ would, the hollow point expands after the first object that it hits, which was JFK's head. There was one known weapon in play which was using hollow point bullets that day. It was a submachine gun which did not have the safety on, and was operated by George Hickey. In the melee after LHO shots were fired, the theory is that Hickey accidentally discharged his weapon and killed the president. The Secret Service could never let anyone know that they had accidentally killed the president, hence their behavior in the aftermath. This is one of my favorites, because it's not a sinister far-reaching four-dimensional plot, it's just somebody F up, and people trying to hide that fuck up. That is actually very interesting. Now this is a conspiracy I want to inquire more about, because it seems plausible. Mattress firm is a front for folks to launder money through. The amount of them in my town is absurd. There's like 3 within a mile stretch. 2 of them are across the street from each other. I'm not buying it, just like people aren't regularly buying mattresses. I believe this one 100%. It just makes no sense for there to be that many. In my area we literally have 3 mattress stores in the same strip mall complex. Like there's no reason for that. Our phones are listening to us. Okay Google. Are you listening to me? True story, I was at a club and saw shoes that light up, and I told my wife those are cool light up shoes, and not 5 minutes later I'm on Facebook and I see an ad for them. Tip: find what you are probably looking for by sorting by controversial. The whistleblower doctor who first released info about the virus didn't buy the virus. The Chinese government killed him. To that I think are legit. The National Child Identification Program, the one that offers parents the chance to get their children photographed, fingerprinted, document noticeable scars, ailments, etc. is really just a ploy for the government to gather as much information willingly from the populace under the guise of keeping your children safe. Certain things are being changed or eliminated to promote consumerism. Home ec, woodshop, etc. are no longer taught in many schools. Headlights on your car that you previously could change for $5 now cost $125 and must be done by the dealer or mechanic. Planned obsolescence means products are designed to fail, so consumers must consistently buy new products. So on and so forth. Edit: I realize that they print and ID your child's info when they are born. I'm not talking about that. I realize that home ec, shop, etc. are not completely eliminated from all school curricula, but they have significantly declined. I realize that some of these classes may have been removed for budgetary reasons, but those are probably not the only reasons. I'm not just talking about newer headlights. You see the same thing on vehicles with older, halogen headlights as well. Planned obsolescence is separate from home ec and the headlight. It is another method of promoting consumerism. Planned obsolescence is straight up taught in schools now. It's part of the design process. It's not a conspiracy. part of it is driven by money, but the other is because manufacturers and developers are always working on better versions of the product and expect to have a way better product out before you need it. P.S. I think Dell got in trouble a few years ago when one of the design team came out and straight up said that they designed their products to last 2 years and 6 months, which is about 6 months past their warranty. It got covered up almost immediately and disappeared, so I can't find a source point, and, yeah. Then SIP is definitely just trying to gather intel. Jim Jones was a CIA operative running MK Ultra mind control experiments. Congressman Ryan was going to blow the lid off the whole operation and try to have the CIA abolished. He was murdered as he boarded his airplane to fly back to the States, and everybody in Jonestown was either forced to drink the Kool-Aid or shot in order to silence them. Mine will likely get buried, but here it goes. I'm a farmer and prices for our commodities in the US have been depressed for 1/2 a decade now, with no end in sight. The USDA releases monthly reports on acres planted, projected yield, stocks of grains, etc. My theory is that the USDA makes these numbers up to manipulate the commodities markets to keep the prices at a level that encourages export. We had terrible yields and the lowest number of harvested acres in corn across the country last year of the last decade, yet the price you can sell it today is below 1980 price. Why? Exports have slowed, so need to knock the price back. Hope this makes sense. I will answer questions if you have some. Edit. Thanks for all the upvotes and the gold. I appreciate the good conversation and questions. Market manipulation by government-backed entities when it comes to agriculture is definitely a thing. I know it's not the same, but have you watched Super Size Me 2? Holy chicken? Spurlock decides he wants to open a chicken fast food restaurant, essentially just using it as an excuse to learn the ins and outs of the gross evils behind fast food. What he discovers, actually, is the insane and horrible way chicken farmers are treated in the US, and that Big Chicken, backed up by the US government, not only exists, but essentially has a monopoly on all chicken farming in the country. They will arbitrarily decide what each farmer's chickens are worth, meaning if you piss them off, they will just be like, okay, you only get paid this for your chicken now, because F you. The reason we don't have free education and free healthcare in the United States is because those are the two big factors to why people join the military. They can promise the GI Bill and VA hospitals to all people that serve. If you take those two huge motivations away, then you will lose a big percentage of recruits. They intentionally put tiny pockets in women's clothing to sell purses and bags. Several important secret services, say, in North America, East Asia, Europe, Russia, have had access to the real death toll in China. They sat down with their corresponding head of state and showed them the figures. This is why so many of them accepted the lockdown, even if at first they were against it. This is why there have been U-turns in 24H from I don't fear that virus, it's just like a cold too, if you don't stay home, you are a dangerous criminal. They have seen the dreadful figures. Beyond a certain number of casualties, everybody suddenly becomes very serious. It's not about the people dying, let's be honest, they don't care. It's about them being overthrown, and not very gently at that, by their constituents. Those who don't understand, well, too bad. They'll be on their own. I think it happened once Italy started losing control of the situation and young people started dying in the US 20s and 30s. I don't think anyone will ever know the real toll out of China, because half of them died in their homes, or were never tested. When this started breaking in January, I told my friends take the death rate and double it. So far that's playing out. Elon broke the Cybertruck windows on purpose to get more memes out of it. I think his whole marketing plan for the Cybertruck was memes. I haven't double checked this myself, but I think that if we look at the money spent on advertising, it's barely anything. The Cybertruck became very popular through memes, and Elon probably knew memes were just as effective, maybe even more effective, than traditional marketing, and it's totally free. He be smart. That there are monsters in the ocean. We have only discovered 5% of our world's ocean, and I truly believe there is something hiding down there. Reddit. Turns out it's like 9 or 10% now. We need James Cameron to raise the bar down there. To conspiracy theorists walk into a bar, you can't tell me that was just a coincidence, man. That Yuri Gagarin was not the first man in space, only the first the Soviets got back down alive.